You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.
Welcome to our mid-year update, checking in on what you folks have weighed in on so far for 2025. Hard to believe we're already pretty much halfway through the year, but that is indeed the case. All right, let's kick it off with our final actual question of the week from last year. For 2024, we asked you quite simply, which asset class do you feel has the most upside potential in 2025? And nearly 50% of you, 49.3% of you, chose volatility, aka the VIX. 22.7% went with crypto, 20% for equities, and 8% for fixed income. Right now, if you look year to date, VIX is actually down on the year. Of course, there were spikes in between where you could have sold it, so that's where this becomes a subjective issue. Crypto, again, a lot of different assets you can look at, but Bitcoin is kind of the surrogate for crypto right now, and Bitcoin is up a fair amount year to date, nearly 15% year to date. And then, of course, equities, SPX, flirting with new all-time highs today. That puts it up only a few percent, though, for the year. And fixed income, depending on how you want to look, yield. Let's just go straight price, because that's what we're comparing at the end of the day. The 10-year, I think, is up around neighborhood of 3.5% year to date. So, like, you got to pick crypto, at least so far, is the straight-out flat year-to-date performance winner. Obviously, if you picked highs and lows, a little bit different, but so far, that's how it's shaping up. Crypto appears to be the winner. You folks all went for vol, so we'll see how that shapes up in the second half of the year. We also asked you on January 13th, there were two big prints in VIX going up for the same price at around the same time. It was the Feb 15 puts and the Jan 17 puts expiring on the 22nd, both of them trading for 26 cents. We said, gun to your head, which would you rather buy? 37.5% of you went for the Jan 17 puts. Those had a chance of working out. Feb 15 puts, we know, didn't quite get there. But the 17 puts had a better chance, and that's the ones you folks went for a little bit more than a third, 37.5%. 25% of you went for buying that diagonal for zero. If you did that, that was actually the best do, obviously, because I don't think either of those puts paid off. Definitely not the 15s, obviously. So, yeah, diagonal for nothing. A little free bite at the apple there, not the worst thing. On January 17th, we said, hey, we've seen a lot of action in the Jan 18-19 call spread going up for prices around 7 to 8 cents. Oddly tight spread for VIX, where we said, hey, gun to your head, which would you rather do? Buy it for 8 cents, sell it, or that's just too tight for you? And 2/3 of you exactly, 66.7%, said you want to buy it for 8 cents. 11.1% said you want to sell it. And a bunch of you chimed in, 22.2% with others out there. Keeping it rolling to January 23rd, we did a flash poll on the option block. July 50s in VIX. We're lighting it up for 68 cents that day. We said, at that price, are you a buyer, a seller, not interested? Or we talked about the 1950 1x8 call spread going up for $1.41. Obviously, a fun discussion point we threw in there as well. Surprisingly, not many takers for that. Not interested, a third of you pretty much in those July 50s, which I understand. About 30%, 29.2% want to sell them. 27.1% wanted to buy them. And surprisingly, 10.4% of you actually liked that 1950 1x8 call spread for $1.41. 1x8. That is redonkulous, listener, I think is the technical term. 24th of January, we saw 75,000 of the Feb 22s going up in VIX for 75 cents. big block there. So that price, are you a buyer, seller, prefer it as a vertical, or just not interested? And nearly half, 46.7% of you wanted to buy those bad boys for 75 cents. 26.7% preferred it as part of a vertical, so obviously buying something else against it and maybe selling that. 20% not interested, 6.7% wanted to sell them straight up. Fast forward to early February, February 3rd, we saw another VIX one, another flash poll. A lot of these going up, just fun trades we like getting your pulse on, listeners. The 14, 16, 17, 19 Iron Condor went up 10,000 times in VIX for about $1. He said, that price, are you a buyer, are you a seller, you're not interested? And exactly a third of you went up seller, and close to that percentage as well just weren't interested in that Iron Condor at all. 28.6% wanted to buy them, and nearly 5% of you, the wiseacres, 4.8%, said, what the heck's an Iron Condor? Listen to Boot Camp if that's you. All right, keeping it going to February 20th. Palantir, Feb 72 puts expiring on the 28th, so end of February, 72 puts traded for 16 cents that morning. That price, are you a buyer, a seller, or not interested? Nearly 50% of you, shows you what was going on with Palantir at the time. 45.8% wanted to pay 16 cents for the Feb 72 puts. The stock is roughly double that now, so wild that so many of you wanted to buy those. 33% were not interested. I get it. Palantir is kind of spooky. 20.8% said you wanted to sell them. Obviously, with the benefit of hindsight, that was the way to go, but wild what was going on in February. So many people wanted to buy those puts. Back to VIX, February 21st. The May 75, it's a lot of wild prints this year, going up 36,000 times for 29 cents. We said that price, you're going to buy them, you're going to sell them. You prefer a 36.75 vertical for 71 cents instead, or just 75 WTF. And that pretty much won. It was a kind of a tie, close to 39% each for a buyer and 75 WTF. Weirdly enough, we're seeing a lot more close polls on Twitter this year, which you'd never seen before. So kind of wonder if something's up with Twitter's polling algorithm out there as well. But either way, close numbers here. Seller 16.7%, and that vertical only got 5.6% of you as takers. Going out to VIX again, same day, February 21st, April 15 puts also trading. 15 strike was a funky one for a lot of people out there this year. A lot of people tilting at that windmill, and unfortunately, a lot of that premium going to die. 40,000 April 15 puts trading for 35 cents that day. At that price, are you a buyer, a seller, or not interested? 39.1% of you wanted to buy those bad boys. We all know how those worked out. 26.1% wanted to sell them. 34.8% couldn't muster the interest at that level there. Let's go out to February 24th. SPY this time. 490 puts expiring March 25th. Traded for 28 cents 150,000 times. 490, so obviously 4,900 in the S, listeners. A level we were threatening around that time. That price, you said, are we a buyer or sold to you? Obviously, in hindsight, you wish you sold them and also had it put to you. That would have been a good do, as the kids say. Over 1,000 handles higher than that right now, which is still wild to see that. So 46.4% of you said sold to you. 35.7% wanted to buy those. Interesting. 14.3% said you'll stick with VIX and vol, and 3.6% said you're going the crypto route instead. March 3rd. So we were starting to get spicy in the market, and that was reflected in our question of the week. We said we're seeing a lot of spice in the market right now. Do you think this has legs, or is it just a dust up? Quite simply, where do you think VIX will close at the end of March? Spicy, so north of 20. We made it very simple this time. Mild below 20, 53.8%. Or too spicy, I'm going to cash. 5.1% of you went that way. And 53.8% of you said VIX will close at the end of March, listeners, below 20. 41.8% of you said it would be above 20, listeners. And you know what, listeners? The above 20 crowd had it, listeners. The closing price for VIX on March 31st, 22.28. By the way, a lot of you had fun tweeting in gifs of the Spice Girls, which we always appreciate. on our questions of the week. Always a good time for some Spice Girls gifts. Going out to March 3rd as well, a crypto question of the week. We said this is back, as you recall, in the heated debate over the crypto strategic reserve. We thought we'd ask you folks, quite simply, do we need one? Yes or no? And hell no, 2/3 exactly, 66.7%. Heck yes, 1/3, 33.3%. So our audience coming down clearly on the side of no thank you, ma'am. A lot of write-ins for what's next in Nvidia reserve or pick your underlying of choice. So a lot of you had issues with that. Going out to March 13th, we kept the spice flowing. Obviously, your gifts inspired us because we mentioned the Spice Girls here, talking spice in the markets and Spice Girls on the option block. It was a fun little poll. Again, you folks take us in some weird directions, but we like it. We're here for it. Who's your favorite Spice Girl? Quite simply, Baby Spice, Posh, Scary, or Ginger/Sporty. I think we got them all there. And it was another tie. Again, weird. Wasn't until this year we've seen a lot of exact ties, 40% each. So I think something's afoot behind the scenes, unless exactly 40% of you can't make up your mind between Baby Spice and Posh Spice. But that's how we went out. Only 10% for Scary and 10% for Ginger and Sporty. I love seeing your write-ins too. They're always hilarious out here. Let's keep rolling out to March 14th. April 16 puts in VIX trading 40,000 times for a whopping 8 cents. You said at that price, are you a buyer? Are you a seller? Or not interested? 71.4% of you bad boys and gals wanted to buy them out there, listeners. Of course, you know, if you haven't been under a rock for the better part of this past year, that April, particularly around April 8th and a little bit thereafter, kind of a wild time in the market. Vol was a little spicy, so no, the April 16 puts for 8 cents did not work out. VIX actually went out on April 32.64, so a wee bit away, pretty much double the 16 strike. We also had a fun flash poll on March 24th about NAC, N-A-K. This is Northern Dynasty Minerals Limited. We saw a print of about 8,000 of the Nove 2s going up for 40 cents, a Viceroy special, if ever there was one. At that price, are you a buyer or not interested? Again, a tie, 46.2%. Kind of weird we're seeing so many of these right now, listeners. 7.7% said you'd rather buy the stock. So 46.2% want to buy them. 46.2%, $2, couldn't get excited about it. 7.7% rather buy the stock out there. Just a fun print that came across our radar, and always fun to have a newcomer hitting the network. Back to VIX, March 21st, April 18 puts this time, trading 30,000 times for 64 cents. Same deal, buyer or seller, 58.8%. Picking up what the market was putting down, said sold to you. That was obviously the right answer. 41.2% wanted to buy them. Then another flash poll from that week, this time on the option block. We saw Micron ahead of their earnings. The April 125-135 call spread going up 60,000 times. I recall this one for 81 cents. That seemed wild at the time. That price, are you a buyer or seller, or just who cares about Micron? And nearly 50% of you, 47.8% of you wanted to buy that vertical for 81 cents. Listeners, 26.1% said who cares. 26.1% of you wanted to sell them, and about the similar percentage said you're not into Micron. That seemed outlandish at the time. Of course, Micron did just have earnings, and if you were holding that spread now, you're looking a lot better. The stock 126, that's $1 in the money. Of course, this spread went out in April, and on April expiration, the stock was in the high 60s, listeners. So, yeah, the 125, 135 seemed a little outlandish, and that was indeed the case. Let's keep rolling out to our old pal Vodafone, aka VOD, getting hot again this April. 100,000 of the April 10s traded for 24 cents. We said at that price, are you a buyer or sold to you or just And nearly 60% of you, about 58%, said buyer, gimme, gimme. 26.3% sold to you, and about 16% said You know, if you listen to the network, that we did some piggybacking on those, and if you're on the pro side, we did some fun calendars against that too, which the calendars helped defray that because, of course, April expiration was kind of the nadir for a lot of the market, including Vodafone, so the 10 strike never really got there. But you had a chance to do some aggressive calendars that pretty much defrayed some, if not all, of the cost of those April 10s, in which case you had sometimes even a credit, which is always a good thing when you're long premium for a credit. But yeah, these did not work out well, even though April, for whatever reason, has been a wild time for a lot of big paper in Vodafone, and this year, no exception. March 24th, we had a fun question of the week inspired by our crypto show. We said, would you trade wine if it was available in a liquid, pun intended, of course, tradable form as a tokenized asset? You folks, not down for it. No fun at all. 61.1% said sold to you on the wine, not touching it. Yes, 38.9%. So no joy for a wine token. Interesting. Also, our buddy, the Flowmaster, spotted these. These are the Rivian June 22 halves. 22,000 times trading. A lot of 22s there for 22 cents. So just to refresh that, 22,000 of the Rivian June 22 halves traded for 22 cents. Back on March 27th, at that price, are you a buyer? Sold to you? Rather buy the stock or you're out on Rivian completely. And these obviously just went the dodo a few weeks ago, listeners. And these just went the way of the dodo a week ago, listeners. And I'm sad to say, Rivian, nowhere near that. 1357. Decent year, up about 5% on the year. So they're managing to shake off from their lows on April 8th, but nowhere near the 22 half level, listeners. Let's keep rolling. End of March. Another vertical in VIX. VIX April 2030 vertical and the April 22 calls, both trading in size. I recall these as well, for both exactly 77 cents. Kind of weird, so we thought, gun to your head, which way you rather go, April 2030 or the 22s. Rather sell that spread, you're not interested in either. And 42.1% of you wanted to buy the April 2030. 26.3% said you wanted to buy the 22 straight up. 10.5% said you'd rather sell them. 21% not interested in either. Spoiler alert, both the buys ended up working out. Obviously, the straight naked April 22s did a little better because, as I said, things got spicy in mid-April. But you're not too mad at either of those at the end of the day if you bought them. If you sold that spread, maybe a little bit angry there. Same day, VIX April 18 puts going up 30,000 times for 42 cents. Again, sold to you, and that's exactly what our audience said. 2/3 of you wanted to sell them. Only a third wanted to buy them, and hey, you're picking up what the market's putting down there. Going back to Palantir on March 31st, this time the April 60 puts, expiring on the 25th of April, going up for 70 cents that morning. You could have sold the April 60 puts in Palantir for 70 cents, listeners. They are a distant memory now. 44.1% of you said sold to you, took advantage of that. 32.4% said you'd rather buy them again. Interesting. And 23.5% said you're staying the hell away from Palantir. Can't really argue with that one either. It's a wild one. This is around the same time the D-SPAR puts in Nvidia were trading $18. Gun to your head, you got to buy them or sell them and hold them through the end of the year. And nearly 60% of you said sold to you. 59.2%, looking pretty good right now, obviously. 25% of you said I'd buy those for $18. 15.8% of you said you're staying away from Nvidia. Fast forward to April 14th, things were getting spicy. We said, do you feel this tariff tantrum will continue to rock the markets through the end of the month? Quite simply, VIX was around 35 when we posted this. Will it be higher or lower at the end of the month? I think you all know how it worked out. And you folks were pretty prescient. You've been around the block a little bit by now. You've listened to a show like Vol Views once or twice. 48.7% of you went lower, 28.9% higher, 22.4% said still around 35 listeners. And all of you who faded the heck out of that was the right call because VIX closed at 2470 at the end of April. Out to Apple, similar question as previously. We saw the D-SPAR puts, this time the 200 puts, also trading for $18. We said, hey, gun to your head, same deal. Got to sell them or buy them and hold them through the end of the year. Which way you going? Sold to you, slightly more than half this time, 54.5%, so nowhere near as confident as the Nvidia put sellers. 45.5% wanted to buy them for $18, in which case you're kind of choking on those right now. But you got a little time. Apple still flirting with that par strike. Several months later, VIX June 16 puts trading for 12 cents on April 14th as well. 20,000 times that price, buyer or seller. And 60% of you wanted to buy them. Unfortunately, for all of you who wanted to buy those, looks like you jumped the gun a bit on this Middle East peace and ceasefire. Looking pretty good right now. Of course, didn't make it in time for settlement in June. VIX cash going out on the 20th, still north of the 20 handle, listeners. Rolling ahead a little bit, April 25th, May 75s in VIX going up for 16 cents. That price, buyer or seller, it's kind of hard to sell those really naked, so gotta go buy them. 54.1% of you agreed, 45.9% said no. We've started to add some more nuanced suggestions in there as well, like selling as part of a vertical, so you don't feel as insane for saying sold to you. We're looking out for you, listeners. We had a funky print on April 24th as well of the CX. This is a Mexican multinational building company, a newcomer to the odd block. The May 6th is traded for 15 cents, 5,000 times. You said that price? Buyer, seller, or what the hell is CX? And 2/3 of you wanted to buy them, and about 17% each said sold. And what the hell is CX? I'm with you on that one. Always love profiling the new ones, though. It always gets some fun reactions. Speaking of fun, our next poll was that same day was on Funko. I haven't talked about them in a while. Ticker symbol FNKO. We said no fives trading for 75 cents, 2,000 times. We said that price, are you going to buy them, are you going to sell them, or I don't like fun? And a little over half, 53.3% of you wanted to buy that. You're in for a little bit of fun. 26.7% said, yeah, I'm not here for those. And 20% of you just said, I don't like fun. Your hearts are black. Jumping ahead to May 12th, listeners, we said, hey, VIX back below 20 on the hopes of a potential ceasefire in the trade war. But is this real or just a calm before the storm? Quite simply, will VIX be above or below 20 in 1 month? This was posted on May 12th. And this is another weird one where we got exactly 50% of you each, not 50.1 and 49.99 or anything like that. 50% exactly said above and below 20. So our audience was exactly split. We posted that on May 12th. So obviously, listeners, the answer will come on June 12th. I think you all know where VIX was. Was VIX above or below 20 on June 12th, listeners? The answer is below 1802. We also had more fun on the VIX upside. June 70s going up for size for 11 cents. That price, buyer, naked seller, vertical seller, or not touching them with a 10-foot pole, and 44% of you, I should say, saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, and many times, shame on me, and you're not touching them, you're done. 28% said you want to buy them. 16% said you'll sell them, but as part of a vertical. 12% said you're going naked, you're going hardcore out there, listeners. Coming off the heels of the OIC conference, listeners, we said, hey, are you folks excited about this NASDAQ proposal to list zero-day options on the Mag 7 plus Broadcom? And yeah, heck yes, 47% said heck yes, list them now. 28% said you have some concerns, and about 25% saying we don't need no more stinking zero DTE, which was kind of interesting. Going out to the land of wild quantum, listeners. Yeah, it's qubits, aka D-Wave quantum, listeners. And we were talking on May 22nd about the June 30s, trading for about $1 for size. We said that price, that seemed wild to us. We said, that price, are you a buyer, seller, not touching them with a 10-foot pole? 50% of you going that way. A third, a little less than a third actually, 31.3% said you wanted to buy them. 18.8% of you wanted to sell them. And take a guess whether they worked out or not, listeners. Unfortunately, QBTS, aka D-Wave Quantum Inc., closing on Friday, 1565, listeners. A day later, May 23rd, July 50s going up for size in VIX. This time for a hefty 35 cents. That price, you said, gun to your head, buy them or sell them straight up. And 51.6% of you agreed that was a little bit too spicy. You wanted to sell them. 48.4% said you wanted to buy those bad boys. We also had a fun debate towards the end of May. Inspired by you folks in our discussion on vol views. We were all kind of Breaking Bad that day on the show. So we said, hey, which one is the better TV show? Breaking Bad or Sopranos? And Breaking Bad took it ever so slightly, 53.8%, 46.2% going for my personal favorite of the two, Sopranos. But hey, to each their own. Breaking Bad certainly has its moments as well. June 2nd said, what is your preferred way to trade Bitcoin in your portfolio? just buy the spot, or are you going to sling some iBit or some BITO or other? And the other is Legion, listeners. MSTR, pick your name out there. There's a ton of ways to trade crypto in your portfolio. And nearly 41% of you said you're just going to go the spot route. It's easier. 34.4% said you're going iBit. That's a hot one. 18.8% leaning for the others, the monsters and others of the world, or MSTU. Or 6.3% only for BITO. We did our poll earlier this year for the infamous Palantir versus Nvidia. And it was a weird one. Another one, 50% each. We didn't like that result, so we went back to it on June 2nd, listener. We said, okay, once again, Palantir and Nvidia. When we did it the first time, they were trading for 106. Things had changed when we went back to it on June 2nd. Nvidia was at the time was 138, Palantir was 132. It then proceeded to sell off pretty aggressively, and that chasm between the two widened out to about $12, I think, at its apex there, which is probably what colored our poll a little bit. Nvidia 60.4%, Palantir 39.6%. So none of you wanted Palantir. Of course, as we're talking right now, listeners, a little bit of a different story. Nvidia 155 today, and Palantir, listeners, 146. So about a 9-point difference out there, but still, you're not too mad at either of those right now if you bought them, especially at around 138 or 132. Let's keep on rolling out to June 2nd as well. July 90s, getting farther up the strike chain, listeners, going up for 12 cents. So that price, are you a buyer, a seller, or just a straight vertical seller? And 52.2% of you said you want to buy them. 26.1% said sold to you. At 21.7% going the risk mitigated route of selling them, but only as part of a vertical. I salute you folks out there. Keeping on the VIX train. A lot of fun VIX prints to debate here this year. SEP 20 puts going up in VIX on June 9th for size around $2.38. It was part of a spread where we said, outright, are you a buyer or a seller on those? And 55.6% of you wanted to buy them, $2.38. Not a bad do, as the kids say right now. 44.4% wanted to sell them. We don't see a lot of meaty, longer-term put buys like that, so that was kind of interesting. And again, looks like, at least for right now, buyers are winning the day, but we have until September on those. Getting some more fun. June 9th, we asked you folks, inspired by our little chat with Mr. P on Options Bootcamp, we said, what is your preferred apocalypse asset? Is it gold or precious metals, diamonds or precious stones, Bitcoin, which inspired all this, of course, or bullets? And at the end of the day, 56.3% of you chose the ultimate apocalypse hard asset of bullets. A third went the gold route. 8.3% for Bitcoin, only 2.1% for diamonds or other precious stones, which have long been considered kind of easily portable wealth, but apparently not in an apocalypse anymore. Maybe the lab-grown stuff, killing all that for everybody out there. Same day, June 9th, we had a little bit of some fun with the crypto degens out there. We saw the MSTU DC9 calls going up for nearly $3, $2.75, a whopping 91,000 times. We said at that price, what are you doing? 56.3% of you wanted to straight buy them, and the other nearly half, 44% roughly, said MSTU is for degenerates. And you know what? I can't really disagree with you on that front, listeners. By the way, right now, MSTU sub $8, $7.98. Of course, got a long way to go until D's expiration. I think we looked at them at the beginning of this week. I think they're already out of those. So kind of a wild trade. Looks like they hemorrhaged about $0.50. So not exactly a good do, as the kids say. We also had some fun on Options Bootcamp on June 11th saying, hey, quite simply, which term do you prefer, ratio spread or back spread? The Dan's preferred term versus my preferred term, ratio spread. And thankfully, 94.1% of you are clearly geniuses going the ratio spread route. Only 5.9% hanging out with the day drinking Passarelli going the back spread route. Fast forward June 12th, listeners, Oracle 250s trading 3,000 times the AUG 250s for 58 cents. So that price, are you a buyer, seller, or seller as a covered call? And 50% of you, again, want to straight buy them. A third want to sell them as a covered call. And 16.7% of you want to sell them straight up. Oracle 212 right now, listeners. Of course, they had that very impressive run post-earnings. They went from about 176 all the way up to 215. Still hanging out right around that level right now. Of course, 250s still got a way to go on those bad boys. Back to VIX downside. July 17 puts going up 30,000 times on June 12th. 45 cents. Same deal. Gun to your head. Buy them or sell them. Interestingly enough, 55.6% of you wanted to sell them that time. So saying sold to you, not buying the downside, which is your traditional way, which is kind of interesting. A lot of you wanted to buy those set puts, but not the July 17's 45 cents. That was a bridge too far. Sold to you. And we had our old pal, you. Our favorite uranium name out there, listeners, aka Energy Fuels Inc. We asked you on June 13th, hey, Jan 2026, 8 calls going up for 50 cents, 10,000 times. So that price, are you a buyer or what the F is quadruple U? And that ended up taking it. 57.1% of you said WTF is quadruple U. And then the rest of you wanted to buy those calls, about 43%. Now, fast forward into our recent stuff, obviously going to be flavored by the Middle East conflict. We said, hey, back on June 16th, the volatile impact of this recent Middle East conflict already appears to be fading. Is this it, or is it just the calm before the storm? Quite simply, will this still be impacting VIX and the markets a month from now? 55.3% said yes, 44.7% said no. And then we also saw a print out there of the SEP 24 calls going up on June 20th in VIX, 46,000 times, $2.88. So a little bit more SEP this time to the upside. And 31.6% of you wanted to sell them straight up. 15.8% wanted to buy them. And about 26% each said sell them as part of a vertical, or you're not touching VIX right now. Also 26%. And of course, our current question of the week, piggybacking, of course, on our recent debate around the impact of the Middle East conflict on volatility. We said, hey, of course, the U.S. bombed Iran this past weekend, and now we have the ceasefire. How is the U.S. entering the conflict, specifically because you posted this poll before the ceasefire? How is this impacting your view? Is it going to have more of a volatile impact, less of a volatile impact, no change, or just go into crude? And right now, not done yet, but 34.8% saying yes, it's going to have more of an impact. 30.4% saying less of a volatile impact. Also about 30.4% saying no change to their outlook. And 4.3% of you, unfortunately, just wanted to buy crude, which is not working out well either. And that catches you up for our mid-year checkup on how you folks voted on the salient options, vol, crypto, and related issues of the day. Hope you're having a great time listening to the network. And we'll be back soon with more great content out there. So everybody, stay safe out there.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.